Hey guys, OGalbina here, bringing you guys another episode of Draft League Study, and specifically our little mini-series on us going over each of the types in Draft League and, in the Draft League format, and whether or not they're essential to your team, what they offer, their average stats, the typical great Pokemon that you'll see, and we'll kind of just give a great overview of, each of the typings. So today, as you can probably see via the thumbnail, via the screen right now, is going to be Dark types. Big shouts to everybody who commented that they wanted to see the Dark type next. If you want to see your favorite typing next, definitely drop one in the comments below. If you're like, dude, water's my favorite type, and I think water type's really good, talk about those. Get enough comments of it, we'll do that. So tell your friends, drop a like on the video if you enjoy, sub if you're new, I'd really appreciate it. I've been getting crazy support lately, so again, I really do appreciate it. If we can get to 600 by BDSP, that would be absolutely amazing. That is my goal right now, to get to 600 before that, and then get to 700 by the end of the year. We're grinding, we're pushing towards 1,000, that the end goal of 1,000, but initially 600 would be amazing. So thank you guys so much for all the support. And yeah, let's jump into it. Dark types, man, I feel like if you have played Draft before and you're coming into this, you kind of already know that this is an essential typing. Really, some of the best Pokemon in the format have this typing, so I'm very excited to talk about it and kind of give you guys a why I think they're good, and kind of talk about my favorite, because after going through and doing a little bit of background research and stuff like that for this video, I realized that a lot of my favorite Pokemon to use in this format are Dark types. So I'm really darn excited for this. So with that being said, let's start. And I'm sorry if I'm sniffling a little bit. I just got a really bad runny nose today. I don't know why. I got a little bit of a cold. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to look at their overall average stats. So we can look at the HP. It is 85.16, attack 109.78. Goddamn. I'm not gonna lie to you, I know Dark types are strong, but I did not expect it to be that high of an average attack stat, because an average attack stat of 100 in my mind is pretty darn strong, in the 90s-ish. Pretty decently strong, means you got some really strong offensive Pokemon, some more bulky, fatter Pokemon. But 109 is pretty ridiculous. I don't know where that ranks up against all the other typings, because I haven't looked into ones that I haven't done, but it's definitely the highest that we've done so far, and it's definitely going to be in the top 3. I'm going to call it right now. At least top 3, it might even be the highest, because that's pretty darn ridiculous. And again, if you look at the Pokemon, you kind of see it. A lot of Dark types are a lot more offensive, hard-hitting, physical behemoths. The two on the screen right now, Urshifu, Single Strike, and Weavile, great examples of that. They're both chilling at 125, I believe. Let me look, because I have them pulled up to the side. 120 and 130. So I guess I got the mean, I guess. But yeah, 109.78 attack, 82.36 defense, 89.60 special attack. So there's definitely some strong special attack Dark types. A lot of them tend to be physical, but some of the special attackers are very solid. 81.69 defense, SPDF, and 84.56 speed. So realistically, all the stats are pretty middling, but all pretty good. The speed stats pretty solid. The special attack's very solid. The HP plus SPDF in defense is actually very solid as well. If you have 85 plus ish natural HP and then like 80 plus bulk defensively, it's really solid, at least naturally defensively. And you're gonna see a lot of Dark types don't have great reliable recovery, and they're not gonna be your mom that's sitting in front of the game the entire time, but they usually have great natural bulk and can kind of switch in and pivot in when needed to and exert that immediate offensive pressure and really do some dirt and do some work. Particularly, and I'm going to talk about this before I go on to the Pokemon, the biggest reason you need a Dark type. There are two big reasons, and one of them we kind of touched on in the normal type video and in the Ghost type video, which are the last two before this, if you haven't watched those. The first one, though, the most important one in my opinion, is to have a Psychic immunity. There are so many fat, scary Psychic types, the Mews, Necrozmas, and Reunicluses of the world, even like the low-tier Musharnas, that you really don't want to allow them to run Mono Psychic move, setup, recovery, or rest talk, or something like that, to where you can't break through them. You want to have that immunity. They're so bulky, and you want to at least force them into that Dazzling Gleam or that Focus Blast coverage, to where they're not allowed to run that Double Dance type setup or that Mono Psychic setup and get away with rest talk. Yeah, it's really just to ensure that you have that Psychic immunity, so that you're not getting bullied by the Reuniclus, Mews, and Necrozmas of the world. Even like a Musharna, like I said, some other shit or low tier Psychic type that can Double Dance in your face, or Bronzong, dude. Like something weird like that can, Resto Chesto up after getting, its defense and SPDF boost and just not die. So I think that's very important. And also it's important, especially if you don't have a good normal type. If you don't have a really fat normal type, like an Audino, a Licky, a Mega Kang, something like that can wish up, sit in front of Ghost types, you want a bulkier Dark. Or at least you want one with good natural bulk. You don't want to draft Greninja or Weavile. Or Urshifu Single Strike. You probably want to draft Urshifu Single Strike. But you're probably getting in the round 1 regardless. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you don't plan on getting that fat normal, you want a Tyranitar, you want a Mandibuzz, you want maybe an Umbreon. I'm not a big fan of Umbreon. You want a Muck, a Crocodile, an Incineroar, something really fat and annoying that can switch in on those ghost types and resist the moves, and at least, you know, resist their stabs to where it's not absolutely free clicking Shadow Ball, since their normal isn't great. So if you're getting an offense normal, I think you need a fat Dark. If you have a really fat normal, I think a fast offensive Dark is completely fine, personally. So, with that being said, I think it's time we will jump into talking about them. And usually what I typically do with these videos, if you haven't seen them before, is I'll take 12 Pokemon, I'll take 6 offensive and 6 defensive, and we'll kind of talk about the offensive ones and then the defensive ones, or vice versa. But with this one, I was looking, and there was just too many good Dark types. There really was too many good Dark types, to where I have 18 of them. None of these really fit a specific mold. I'm going to rapid fire go over them, go over what they're good at, their strengths, their weaknesses, things like that, and we'll keep it going. Like I said, I realized I love Dark types in this video. Might be my favorite type in the format now that I look at it, like, in depth, and I've been doing this series. There's so many really good Dark types that I absolutely adore using. So, let's go and jump into it. First, we're going to start off with a mon that I think not a lot of you have used. If you guys are, you know, Wi-Fi players, you playing Galar Deck Sleeves, is Greninja, because it's obviously not in the format right now. But Greninja, one of my absolute favorites from Gen 7. Gen 8, I actually haven't gotten the chance to draft in any of my Showdown leagues, but I absolutely love Greninja. This thing is ridiculous, incredibly fast, mixed attacking capabilities, but definitely good special attack as well, with crazy utility. And that speed tier of 122 is so ridiculously nice when you throw in like Dark Pulse, when you throw in stabs plus like Ice Beam, and you know, options like Low Kick. You have Spikes and T-Spikes, U-turn from Momentum, Taunt, so many options. You can be mixed with Gunk Shot, and you have Grass Knot for bulky waters that might sit in front of you and things like that. We talked about Taunt. Fast Taunt is so nice in so many situations. And then Water Shuriken is very strong, stab, reliable, priority, 100% accurate, and 15 base power for each, which is amazing. Now, obviously, Gren usually has Protean as a hidden ability, which is typically banned in draft leagues, which makes sense. And that's not even really a Dark type, to be completely honest, because it's always switches types. But Battle Bond is also typically banned. I've seen some leagues allow it. I've seen a lot of leagues not allow it, a good majority of them. But Gren is amazing. It's a great fast spiker, great fast taunter, strong specs attacker. I've seen Boots Gren be great just because of the fact that you're so fast and you're U-turning in and out. It's great not taking that spikes and that rocks chip. Really versatile Pokemon despite its really mediocre bulk. And in the hands of a good player can be an absolute nuisance. I literally played against one tonight as of when I'm recording this, and I'm probably gonna upload it tomorrow. So I was playing a Trick House game against Hacker, and he brought like a leftovers taunt Toxic Greninja, and it was so annoying because I could not get a Skull Burn on it switching in, and it was just being an absolute nuisance. I had to win a lot of 50-50s to kind of deal with it. So Gren, absolutely amazing Pokemon, absolutely love it. T-Tar, I'm sure you guys know this. This is probably one of the best Dark types in the format, but there's so many good ones. T-Tar is absolutely amazing, and it's kind of that Jack of all trades type Pokemon, where it has that crazy strong attack stat that most Dark types do have. 134, stronger than our boy Urshifu, stat wise at least, stronger than our boy Weavile, Zarude, a bunch of options like that. But also, its natural bulk plus that Spadef boost it gets in the sand with Sandstream, ridiculous. This Pokemon is incredibly strong, has great coverage. It sucks that it lost Pursuit, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. Hidden Power Fighting being on is a pretty decent buff for it, in the sense that now you have to run Focus Blast, you're not running the Hidden Power Fighting, but honestly, Hidden Power Fightings are chipping it. They're absolutely balancing. You want Focus Blast. Again, it does have that nasty 4x weakness to fighting, but I think there are so many other typings that are worse being 4x weak too, personally. And if it's a special fighting move, if it's like a non-stab boosting item, not boosting item Focus Blast, you're probably living it. If it's just an Aura Sphere, you're probably living it, and you obviously have access to like Chople Berries, and you can be, again, fat Assault Vest Tar, or leftovers Max Spadef Tar with like Thunder Wave and Stealth Rock and Crunch and Earthquake and all this usual stuff, Rock Blaster, Stone Edge, but then you can be Special Tar. Special Tar is very slept on. If you want to see us use someone use T-Tar well, I do recommend checking our BBL run. I think I used T-Tar very well in that season. No sand either. I don't think T-Tar is a Pokemon that you need to draft sand around. It's obviously great. Drill T-Tar is great if you want to spend the points on it. Absolutely phenomenal core, but I've drafted T-Tar no sand every time I've drafted T-Tar. Every time. Minus Mega Garchomp one time in Gen 7. But like no Sand Rush Abuser. I've never drafted T-Tar Drill because I think the price steepness is pretty deep in a lot of formats and stuff like that. In 8mon I'd be more likely to, but with this probably not. But again, has that phenomenal special coverage. It has that early gen coverage, which is great. So it's throwing off Fire Blast and Ice Beams and stuff like that too. You can Dragon Dance up to boost you. You can Rock Polish up and be Weakness Policy because you don't die. You can Taunt. You can Thunder Wave and Toxic like we talked. You can be a very reliable rocker. An absolute stud of a Pokemon though. AV doesn't die with good wish support. Love T-Tar. I think it's amazing. Another option I want to talk about really quick too is Mega T-Tar. Mega Tyranitar, I definitely wouldn't recommend drafting Sand with this because I think not having the option to run Smooth Rock is not a good idea when it comes to having a Sand team. But if you want a ridiculously strong, a Pokemon who doesn't die and still has a very solid speed tier, you do miss out on an item and that variability. But this Pokemon with good Cleric support, with good Wish support, and around a good team is awesome. I had this thing. This is a Pokemon I actually thought would be pretty awful. I didn't like it. I didn't like the option to not run an item. That's typically why you see T-Tar more than like Mega T-Tar and Gen 6 and 7 OU. But in a draft format, sometimes these base stats do make up for it a little bit in specific matchups. I had like a Zygarde T-Tar Mega and Mew team. And like Corviknight and stuff like that. Ridiculously fat and annoying team. And Crash this most recent season. And I actually really like T-Tar. I think it's absolutely amazing. This Pokemon has a lot easier of a time setting up Rock Polishes and Dragon Dances and winning games. 71 is honestly a good jump from that, 61 I think regular T-Tar is? Tyranitar, yeah, 61, so that lets you outspeed certain things at +1 a little bit easier, which is obviously very, very nice. And yeah, I love Mega Tyranitar. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. Weavile, you've seen us use Weavile plenty of times on the channel before. It was our kill leader in pack. I think I got almost 20 kills. This Pokemon, very simple. You click Knockoff, Triple Axe, Icicle Crash, Ice Shard. You just do damage. This isn't you're gonna be your Ghost Resist. I drafted it, I've drafted it to where it's like I had a Frail Normal, and this was my Dark type, and I had really tough time against all the Ghost types of the world. But other than that, offensively wise, this Pokemon's amazing. I do think that people kind of rely on Triple Axle a little bit more than they need to. I think a lot of times you can get away with running Icicle Crash a lot more than Triple Axle, especially in a draft format where people are a lot more likely to run Helmets and just have you kill yourself to Helmet plus like Life Orb Recoil and things like that. Definitely very unfortunately to keep out. Boots are great for Swords Dance sets. Band and Life Orb are still my favorite though. Core that I definitely recommend you try is Weavile Gengar. I've had so much fun with that on Wi-Fi. I think that core is absolutely ridiculous to switch into, so great Pokemon. Hydra, we drafted Hydra a ton here too. We have it in RODL right now. Another very versatile Pokemon that's strong, more so on the special attacking side this time. So it's a good example of a special attacking Dark type. But also, look at its natural bulk, 92, 90, 90, very solid. This is a good Ghost Resist, unless they have Dazzling Gleam. It's not a good Gengar Resist or something like that. Not a good Dragon Bolt Resist, but it can definitely get the job done. I use this to check Blacephalon in one of the weeks very comfortably. Very comfortably. It got Nasty Plot and Dragon Dance this gen to boost its offensive capabilities outside of just being that Scarf or Specs or Life Orb Breaker, which it's amazing at. Like I said, you can be Fat, Spadef, Taunt, Hydra. You can be an absolute nuisance. It's a great Scarfer, like I said, great with Specs. And it can kind of set up and win on its own now, which is awesome. U-Turn for momentum. It has Taunt, like I said, Defog. A bunch of really cool options. I think Hydra is absolutely amazing. One of my favorite Pokemon to draft, and it's kind of been a theme. Urshifu. I know it's been a little bit. We're not talking about a Pokemon that should arguably be banned to a lot of people. I don't think it's bannable, personally, especially not in Nat decks. In Wi-Fi, I can see the case for it, but regardless, this Pokemon, all it needs... Oop, can't spell, but all it needs is Wicked Blow. Close combat. That's it. 99% of the time, that's all you're clicking. You might have a Sucker Punch, or you might have a Poison Jab, or an Iron Head for those fairies. You might have a U-Turn, probably, something like that. But realistically, this thing with a band, with a Scarf, with a Life Orb, it's just going to punch things in the face, and it's going to be very difficult to switch into. These no drawback, basically 120 base power stabs, with Wicked Blow always critting. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. Not a lot of things switch into this thing in conjunction with hazards throughout the course of a game, which is very scary. Now, it is a Dark type that can't knock off, and that is a downside to this one, this one, this one, and this one, and this one, so I feel like that's something important to note. Weavile, definitely not. It's all it does is click knockoff, but still very solid. I think people will definitely, at this point, know how good Urshifu really is. I'm going to start speeding it up, because I'm realizing I still have 12 more Pokemon after Zarude, and oops. that's a lot, and I'm already at, what, 15 minutes on the recording and just hit? So, let's go ahead and jump into it. Zarude's a really slept on Pokemon. It got really overhyped when it first dropped, because we're like, oh shit, new mythical just dropped. But then we realized, it's not like a tier 1 Pokemon. But then people started experimenting with it more, and they realized this thing is really good as like a tier 2 midpoint value type Pokemon. Power Whip plus Lariat is very solid stab options with U-turn and close combat, and Rock Slide for flying types, which is absolutely amazing as a grass. And it gets Taunt, as you would, typically assume of a dark type. Synthesis to keep it healthy, but also Jungle Healing, which is a really, really clutch move. Healing only 25% of your health, but also acting as a cleric to yourself. So it makes bulk up Jungle Healing sets really, really good against fat, stall, or like balance-oriented teams, setting up on so many different Pokemon, which is absolutely amazing. And its natural bulk is crazy. 105, 105, 95. Very, very bulky. Very, very tough to deal with. It is 4 times weak to bug, but I don't think that's that big of a deal. I'll be honest, there are Pokemon that can click U-turn on it. Most of them, if they're not strong physical attackers, it's still not doing a lot. It's doing as much as it would to any other dark type, really, because of its really, really good bulk. Especially if you are bulked up and things like that. Scarf is great, Band is great, Fat, Leftovers, Taunt, or bulk up maybe, or Jungle Healing, also great. So many different options with the Zarude. I really do like this Pokemon. I used it once I've used it a few times. I really do like Zarude. I think it's great. Next, we go to a little bit more of a fat dark type in Mandibuzz. This is the polar opposite of the ones we've been talking about that are really strong. Mandibuzz has 65 attack, 55 special attack, but with boots, and it's ridiculous bulk in 110, 105, 95, and a very solid natural speed tier in 80. I think that's something that people sleep on with Mandibuzz, and a lot of fat Pokemon that have solid speed tiers is they're not as easy to cripple with Taunt when their natural speed tier might be faster than said Taunter, or you might be able to outspeed a lot of their passive stuff and throw off big taunts and knockoffs and taunts. Knockoffs and taunts and toxics is what I meant. Phenomenal defogger. You can U-turn around. You can taunt, like I said, Whirlwind. Foul Play is great for deterring physical setup, which is amazing. And this Pokemon's honestly really hard to exploit. Despite its passivity and 65 attack, 55 special attack, it's really, really tough to exploit a Mandibuzz. It really is. I used to kind of be a Mandibuzz hater, but I've used it a few times. Absolutely love the Pokemon. I'm realizing I'm saying I've used these Pokemon, like every single one of them, multiple times, and I feel like that means I play too much Draft League, but, who knows. Ability-wise, you're not too great off. Overcoat solid. Weak Armor is great for some, cheesy sets and some nice niche options. And then Heavy Duty Boots makes this thing almost unkillable. In Gen 7, back in my day, we would just get rocks and Mandibuzz wouldn't be that annoying. Now you got Boots and it's essentially a free Pokemon. You do have to be careful about not wanting to switch your Dark type in on knockoff, which kind of sucks. You have to have better knock switch-ins, but still Mandibuzz is absolutely amazing. Drapeon, great mid-tier dark type, tier 3-ish type Pokemon. With an Assault Vest, it's a great ghost check. Swords Dance like Agility or Swords Dance Taunt Stallbreaker sets are really, really solid on Drapeon. I think those are really slept on options, especially in conjunction with Battle Armor. I think a lot of people think Sniper when they think Drapeon, which you can definitely do that too. You can go with like Focus Energy, Scope Lens type sets. I believe it gets Focus Energy. It doesn't. Okay, well, you can go with like Scope Lens, Sniper, Swords Dance type sets and be very annoying with great coverage and Earthquake and knockoff Poison Jab, Fire Fang, Ice Fang, Aqua Tail, a bunch of cool options. But I think like Taunt Stallbreaker or like just Fat AV Battle Armor Drapeon is usually the one I'm running most of the time. Obviously very, very solid defensive utility in that sense. Iron Defense, Word to Ant, not the most amazing option, but it's a T-Spiker. And it serves its role. Very solid natural defense stat. And with an AV, you kind of make up for this mediocre HP plus Spadef stat, which is obviously very nice. And decent solid natural attack at 90. Not the strongest thing in the world, but if you get a Swords Dance Pine Day, if you're a Life Orb, you can do a lot more in that sense. Speaking of Assault Vest dark types, we have Muckalola, king of Gen 7 dark types. This Pokemon in Gen 7 I drafted a ton in conjunction with Gluttony, plus Super Berries. This thing with a curse, it was just dark type Snorlax, man. This thing just did not die. It was very difficult to beat. It could not be toxic too, which is really, really clutch. Unless you're playing Salazzle, you weren't toxicking this thing down. You can run cool Rest Talk sets now with Curse instead, or you can still run Recycle sets with Gluttony. It's just not going to come to the same effect because of obviously the Super Berry nerf and things like Eye of Papa only doing doing 1/4 of, or 33% instead of half. So you basically like a free recover whenever you got hit off without actually clicking it, which is what I think made Muck so good back in the past. Now you're typically going to see it. I've drafted Muck a lot, and 9 times out of 10 I'm running Assault Vest sets. If not, I'm running like Black Sludge Rest Talk sets. Assault Vest is great though, with its HP plus its Spadef being its 2 of its highest stats, plus good natural attack in 105, and having poison touch and just poisoning everything with knockoffs and poison jab or poison fang, shadow sneaking things for priority, having good elemental punch coverage, rock slide, a bunch of different options. I think that Muck is a really solid ghost resist, blanket check to a lot of things as well, just general special attackers and stuff. So very, very good Pokemon. Next, Crocodile. One of the most commonly mons you're going to see drafted as a dark type in Gen 8. I don't think I've seen a Gen 8 draft where nobody's drafted Crocodile, and for good reason. 2 great abilities, Intimidate and Moxie. It's a phenomenal choice scarfer, and it's also just very solid as like a general rocker, throwing off knockoffs, earthquakes, potentially like close combats or fire fangs. But realistically, most of the time, all you're going to need is knockoff EQ. You can stealth rock, you can taunt in that last slot, you can click toxic, you can have Stone Edge if you really need it. Close combat, like we said. I like Toxic Crook. I think AV Crook is another really slept on set. You have cool covers like Aqua Tail, a bunch of different cool things. Darkest Lariat for Psychic types want to boost up their defenses, which is definitely very clutch. So I love Crook, another great mon. And again, I have not put a Pokemon on this that I do not like. I have not put a single Pokemon in this that I do not like yet, which I think is pretty crazy. I think there's one, there's one on this side that I don't like and one that I'm kind of meh on. But these first two, phenomenal. Incineroar, very solid as well. Fire plus Dark is really hard to switch into, even if you're not super offensively invested with that base 115 natural attack stat. And this thing having access to either boots or an assault vest, it's very difficult to deal with. And I think people kind of like pigeonhole it into like fat Spadef U-turning roll, which is great with its Flare Blitz knockoff, CC, U-turn, Earthquake, a bunch of cool different options like that. But I think stuff like Bulk Up or Swords Dance and Incineroar is very difficult for a lot of fatter teams to deal with. And I think that's very, very important to note. I really do like Incineroar a ton. Mega Gyarados. This is a Mega that I think is super slept on. I've used it a couple times. I love this Pokemon, especially in non-first turn Mega Leagues. When you switch in, you have that Intimidate option. You're that flying type, and you actually resist that fighting, and you're neutral to that Fairy that a lot of Pokemon would want to click on you because you're a Mega Gyarados. You can Dragon Dance in their faces. Regular Gyarados still have pretty great natural bulk and set up for an end game and win the game. You can really bully a lot of things. Restock Gyara with like one attacking move and Dragon Dance is a little bit of a demon. I will not lie to you. It has great taunt, stall breaker sets. You can really bully a lot of fat teams with a good Dragon Dance Mega Gyarados. Love the Pokemon. And if we look at this thing, one, its attack is obviously sky high, but this thing has as good of natural bulk as our good friend in this next slide, Umbreon. So you have the same base HP, you have one less defense, and you have the same Spadef. That's nuts. This is a Pokemon with 155 attack and Umbreon bulk, and I think it's so slept on. Absolutely love Gyarados, but I guess we can kind of transition into Umbreon. This is probably the one Pokemon on this list that I don't like. I figured I'd mention it because I know a lot of people like Umbreon. They love how fat and annoying and bulky it is. It has a very similar stat spread to Mandibuzz, except it's slower and bulkier. Obviously, it has a lot more Spadef and 5 more defense with a less HP, but I think it's overall bulkier. Still very passive, but I don't think it's as great as Mandibuzz in the sense that it is slower. It is, in my mind, more exploitable because of it being slower and not having momentum outside of Baton Pass, which is tauntable. U-turn is not tauntable, and Baton Pass is, but it is a good Wish Passer. It can Moonlight up to keep itself healthy. It's a Cleric with Heal Bell. These are things, besides keeping itself healthy, Cleric and Wish Passing are things that Mandibuzz cannot do, so that's obviously a plus sign. Has Foul Play to deter physical setup, at least physical setup that's not Bulk Up, because Bulk Up will kind of cancel out the boost and that damage. It has Taunt for really, really slow things, but nothing for anything with any decent natural speed. And I've seen Curse Umbreon actually do pretty darn well, which is definitely interesting. I don't think it gets Calm Mind, which would actually be really cool if it did. I think it would actually be really annoying with a Calm Mind set. But I know it gets Curse, which can definitely be pretty annoying, and it can BP out some stat boost if your league allows that for some dumb reason. But then you can synchronize away status on the opponent if they try and Toxic you, and then potentially Heal Bell it off, do a bunch of different stuff like that. Bisharp, Definitely not a dark type you want to have as like your ghost resist dark type, but very scary offensively, so I feel like I gotta mention it. It's a decent rocker, knockoff sucker. Iron Head is going to hit a lot of teams very hard in conjunction with low kick. It has taunt, it has X scissor, thunder wave, which is really funny. I've seen a lot of really cool Bisharp stats. I once lost to a rock polish weakness policy Bisharp. Did not know it got a rock polish before that game, but look, there it is right there. Really, really scary stuff. It has Psycho Cut too to catch some potential fighting types, which is going to be the biggest weakness to it. Very strong, good natural defense, but that's really it. The rest of its stats are very middling. And if I said I liked Bisharp, Jason might never be my friend again. So I'm going to say I don't like Bisharp so that me and Jason can be friends going forward. Next is Gmolt, and I'm telling you, we can look at Mandibuzz again. This thing has Mandibuzz level bulk, or at least comparable bulk. It's definitely less bulky, at least on the FizzDef side. But man, if this thing got Roost, this would be absolutely phenomenal. This would just be based Mandibuzz, as is what I call it. I think it would be so good with Roost, but it doesn't get Roost. You're forcing like Rest Talk shenanigans, which it is very good at. Berserk is a really awesome ability, especially with this thing's natural bulk. A lot of things aren't going to OHKO you in one, so getting taken down below half is going to give you a +1 in your special attack, which is great. It has access to agility and nasty plot. It can U-turn around, which is awesome. I don't think it can defog. It can, but it can taunt things. It can throw a Fiery Wrath, which is just a little bit stronger Dark Pulse, which is nice. Hurricanes and Air Slashes. Doesn't have great coverage outside of that, but honestly, that's great neutral coverage versus a good majority of teams, really. And this is a Pokemon that can kind of bully and set up on a lot of fairy types just because of its ridiculous SpDef stat. You can set up a nasty plot, take 52% from a Moonblast, and you're at +3. Hurricane's going to kill those fairy types with a little bit of chip, which is really clutch. You might even be able to set up an agility if they don't 2-hit KO, which is, again, pretty nuts. This Pokemon's very scary in my mind. I do not like prepping for this thing. If it had Roost, I think it would be a borderline Tier 1 Pokemon, if not top of Tier 2. Really cool Slept-on Pokemon, and I've been seeing it get a lot more uses lately, which is really awesome. Grimmsnarl, not one I'm the biggest fan of. I have it in SBU right now. I'm not a big fan of screens, but if you're a screens player, you love playing Hyper Offense, Grimmsnarl is the dark type for you. You can set that light screen, that reflect, and go to town. You can go with cool bulk up sets as well, which is definitely really cool. You throw off Lariats and Spirit Breaks or Play Roughs. You have great coverage and, like Superpower and, what else do you have coverage-wise? Superpower, like low kick type stuff. I believe you have... Do you have Elemental Punches? You have Drain Punch, which is nice. Yeah, you don't have great coverage, actually. Maybe I'm tripping. You have Thunder Punch? You got Power Whip, which makes sense. It's got a little whip arms and stuff. Foul Play. Oh, it has Ice Punch as well, which is clutch. Just no... and Fire Punch. So it does have Elemental Punch. I'm just absolutely blind. But bulk up sets are definitely very, very cool. Sucker Punch for priority. You can Prankster T-Wave things, which is also great. Prankster Trick things. You can trick things. Iron Balls with priority. Also very, very solid. And you have Prankster Taunt, which is a very, very valuable tool in my mind. Personally, I think Grimmsnarl is definitely very solid, but I think people pigeonhole it into screens only roles, and that's what I think is not very good, because I think screens strategies are very gimmicky and forced in a lot of games. Scrafty, amazing Pokemon. I love Scrafty. This thing with 3 phenomenal abilities that I've used all before, mostly Intimidate and Jet Skin, and mostly Intimidate in general, but Knockoff plus Drain Punch or CC is very hard to switch into in general. Even Fairies, just nothing appreciates being knocked off when you have that secondary Fighting Stab. It's very, very annoying to deal with, as we saw with Urshifu, but this is a dark type that can knock off, which is very, very solid. You can Dragon Dance, you can bulk up, you can be very annoying in that sense, or you can be like Rest Shed Skin sets with like Toxic and, annoying nuisance, stuff like that. You can be Assault Vest with Intimidate and just blanket check everything on the opposing side. You have coverage for Fairies if you can weaken them enough in Iron Head and Poison Jab, but you're not the naturally strongest thing in the world, but look at that great natural bulk. Pretty mad defense, HP, but that defense in the SpDef is very solid. Meh speed tier, but I think the other stats make up for it. I think this is a great low tier dark type, and I would definitely recommend to try it if you haven't already. And last one we got Spirit Tomb. Another very solid bond, only weak to fairy types, which is definitely a very cool option. It got Poltergeist this gen. It also got Burning Jealousy for fire coverage this gen, which is actually pretty darn cool, I will not lie. It has access to Nasty Plot and Calm Mind. It can Pain Split, it can Will-O-Wisp, it can Sucker Punch and Shadow Sneak for priority. Great with Mixed Attacker. Probably one of the only Mega Medicham and Mega Gallade consistent checks in the game, which is obviously very, very clutch. Really checks a lot of offensive fightings. Being a ghost that is neutral to fighting is really, really clutch. I don't know if we talked about this one in the last one, but I really do like Spirit Tomb. I think it's very solid. It's just a general nuisance, especially the price point it's usually at. It's definitely worth drafting. And yeah, I think that's basically it. There's so many good dark types. I really felt like this video was a little bit less structured than the other ones, but I just kind of wanted to get across how important this typing is, one, to cover that ghost weakness a little bit, but more importantly, stop those fat psychics from just running through your team. But also, you're not put at a disadvantage for drafting a dark type. There's so many good ones. I mean, I listed off 12 right here. There's still so many other good ones that you can draft. Yeah, wait, 6. No, I listed off 18. Like, there's good dark. There's never an excuse for you not to have a good dark type. It's not like a normal type where like there's only a certain amount of them that are actually pretty solid, and then you're kind of stuck with a shitter at the end. Like you're like, ah man, I guess I gotta draft this Pokemon that I'm not gonna bring, so people don't bring Spec Shadow Ball versus me. There's really no excuse for not having a good dark type, depending whether or not your team appreciates the more offensive Greninja or the more, you know, blanket checking, naturally strong but naturally fat Tyranitar, or if your team appreciates the Mandibuzz better. It really just comes to what you draft around it, and as long as you do draft soundly and draft with like an end goal in mind, you should have a very solid team with a very solid dark type, and I think that's very important to reiterate. And opposed to talking about this one's offensive, this one's defensive, I want to talk about how many good ones there are and all of the things they could do. So this one's a little bit longer. Thank you guys for watching. If you've watched this far, you're amazing. And yeah, definitely let me know in the comments, 1, what is your favorite dark type? What is your favorite one to draft? And 2, what type you want to see next week? Definitely let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sub if you're new, like if you enjoyed. See you guys in the next one. Later.